Voran stood at the wide window of his command vessel. The stars stretched in endless rows, cold and silent, but to him they were not beautiful. They were only territories waiting to be claimed. His people, known across sectors as the Draxan, believed themselves stronger, wiser, and destined to rule. For years, no world had been able to resist them. Their fleets moved like storms, and their weapons were sharper than anything the smaller races could build. Voran's golden eyes rested on a glowing dot on the display map. That dot was a human outpost built on a barren planet with thin air and gray rock fields. He had read the reports. Humans were newcomers to the galaxy, and their technology was simple compared to the Draxan. To Voran, they were not warriors, only settlers trying to survive among stars too vast for them. He turned to his officers. "Humans wear uniforms," he said with a sneer. "They march like soldiers. But they are fragile creatures inside. Their skin breaks, their bones snap. They are not like us. This will be nothing more than a lesson for them." The officers nodded, some smiling. They shared his view. To the Draxan, the uniform was a mask of false bravery. The humans wrapped themselves in fabric and symbols, but beneath it, Voran believed, there was only fear. On the far side of the galaxy, the human outpost prepared for the unknown. Captain Rin walked along the outer wall, his boots pressing into the dust. The planet's sky was pale, the sun weak, but he carried himself with quiet strength. His uniform was plain gray with a patch of blue on the shoulder. To anyone else, it might look ordinary. To Rin, it was a promise. He paused at a guard tower where a young soldier, Arik, was on watch. The boy's face was tied with worry. "Do you think they are really coming?" Arik asked. Rin kept his eyes on the horizon. "Yes," he said. "They will come. And we will be ready." Arik swallowed and nodded. He looked at Rin's uniform. The cloth was faded from long service, but the captain wore it with pride. Arik felt calmer just standing near him. Far above, the Draxan fleet approached in silence. Voran watched the small planet grow larger on the screen. His claws tapped against the armrest of his command chair. "These humans built walls," he said with a laugh. "Stone and steel, like children building a fort. They think a uniform and a wall will stop us." One of his officers leaned forward. "Shall we crush them at once, Commander?" Voran shook his head. "No. Let us send only a part of the fleet. It will be enough. I want to see their faces when their pride breaks." As the ships moved into position, down on the surface Rin gathered his squad in the courtyard of the outpost. The soldiers stood in neat rows, their uniforms simple but clean. Some of them were young, their eyes filled with doubt. Others were older, carrying scars from past battles. Rin spoke to them in a steady voice. "We know who is coming. We know they think we are weak. They see our uniforms and they laugh. But the uniform is not what makes us strong. It is what we carry inside. Discipline. Unity. The will to fight for each other. That is what they do not understand." The squad straightened. Fear did not vanish, but it was pushed back by something stronger. In his ship, Voran looked again at the humans standing in their yard. The scanners showed rows of soldiers in gray, waiting with rifles in hand. He smiled with arrogance. "Look at them," he said. "So small. So simple. They believe fabric gives them courage. I will tear that illusion apart." He could not see what was under the cloth. He could not measure the strength that did not come from muscle or weapon. His eyes saw only the outside. Back at the outpost, Arik whispered to his friend Myra, who stood beside him. "Do you think we can really stop them? Their ships are so many." Myra looked at Captain Rin. The man stood at the front, his hands calm, his face hard with determination. "If he believes we can," Myra said softly, "then I believe too." The ground began to tremble as the first alien crafts entered the planet's atmosphere. Trails of fire cut through the sky. The soldiers looked up, their hearts pounding. Rin raised his hand. "Hold steady," he ordered. The soldiers obeyed. They were afraid, but they did not run. They tightened their grip on their rifles and waited. Above, Voran leaned forward in his chair, his voice cold with confidence. "Let the humans see what real power looks like." The alien crafts roared lower, and dust rose in clouds around the outpost. The humans stood firm, their uniforms flapping in the wind. To Voran, it was still laughable. To him, they were nothing more than fragile bodies hidden under plain cloth. But he was about to learn what those uniforms truly represented. The alien crafts landed outside the outpost in sharp formation. Their hulls were black and silver, covered with glowing lines that pulsed like veins of fire. The ground shook with each heavy landing, and dust filled the air. Soldiers inside the walls of the outpost felt the tremors in their boots, but not one broke their line. Captain Rin stood at the front wall, his eyes locked on the horizon. His face was steady, though inside his heart beat strong. He knew fear was natural, but he also knew it must not control him. Behind him, his squad looked to him for strength, and he would not let them see weakness. Arik whispered to Myra, "Look at their ships. They are so large. Ours are nothing like that." Myra kept her rifle close. "Size is not everything," she said. "We have something they do not." Arik frowned. "What do we have?" Myra nodded at Rin. "Him. And each other." Outside the walls, hatches opened on the alien crafts. Troops of Draxan soldiers marched out in perfect lines. They were taller than humans, their armor thick and shining, their weapons glowing with strange light. Their steps were heavy, and their voices rang in harsh metallic tones as they called to one another. From the command ship in orbit, Commander Voran watched the scene through a live feed. He leaned back in his chair, amused. "There they are," he said to his officers. "Humans in cloth uniforms, standing in a row like toys. They cannot stand against Draxan steel." An officer bowed his head. "Shall we begin the advance?" "Yes," Voran answered. "But slowly. Let the humans see their end coming. Let them feel the weight of our march." The Draxan commander on the ground gave a signal, and the alien troops began to move forward. Their armored boots struck the earth in rhythm, a sound like thunder. The human soldiers on the wall gripped their rifles tighter. Dust swirled around them, carried by the wind from the alien landing. Rin raised his hand. "Hold," he said in a clear voice. The humans did not fire. They did not break their line. They stood shoulder to shoulder, their gray uniforms blending with the stone wall. To an outsider, they looked too simple, too plain, but in truth the sight carried power. Each uniform was a thread, and together they wove a fabric of unity. Voran laughed when he saw them standing so calmly. "Look at their pride," he said. "They do not know it will shatter in minutes." But the calmness was not pride. It was preparation. When the Draxan came within range, Rin lowered his hand. "Now," he said. The first line of humans fired. Their rifles, though less advanced, released precise bursts of energy that struck the front row of aliens. Some fell, sparks flying as their armor cracked. The rest of the aliens lifted shields, but the humans had already shifted to new positions, firing from higher towers and side walls. The Draxans slowed their march, surprised at the accuracy of the fire. On the command ship, Voran frowned. "Strange," he said. "They fight with more order than I expected. Still, it is only delay. Their weapons are weak." On the ground, Captain Wren gave new orders. "Shift left. Cover the breach. Do not waste shots. Every round counts." The humans moved with discipline. Young soldiers looked nervous, but they copied the calm of the older ones. Arik fired his rifle, the recoil shaking his arms. He missed his first shot, but Myra steadied him. "Breathe," she said. "Do not rush. Wait, then fire." Arik nodded and tried again. This time his shot struck a Draxan soldier square in the chest. The alien stumbled and fell. Arik's eyes widened with shock. "I hit him," he whispered. "Good," Myra said. "Now do it again." The Draxan regrouped and returned fire. Their weapons flashed with bright beams, tearing into the outer wall. Stone cracked, sparks flew, and one section collapsed with a heavy crash. Dust filled the air. The aliens roared in victory, believing the humans would scatter. But when the dust cleared, the humans were still there, rifles raised. They had already pulled back to secondary cover points. Their movements were quick, as if they had practiced this many times. Voran narrowed his eyes. He did not laugh this time. "They are holding. Why do they not run? Why do they not break?" His officer hesitated. "Perhaps their commander has trained them better than expected." "Impossible," Voran snapped. "They are only humans. Fragile, soft, and weak. A uniform cannot change that." Yet deep inside, Voran felt the first crack in his certainty. On the battlefield, Captain Wren gave calm orders through the COMM Tower to focus on their left flank. Squad 3, lay suppressing fire on the breach. Do not waste movement. Stay together. His voice carried steady confidence, and his soldiers followed. Even as alien blasts shook the ground, they held their line. Arik's hands no longer shook as much. He remembered Wren's words, the uniform was not the source of their strength. It was what lived beneath it. And now, as he stood shoulder to shoulder with Myra and the others, he felt that strength inside himself. The Draxan pressed harder, anger in their growls. Their armor gleamed, their weapons burned, but the humans did not falter. Every move was answered with clever fire, every push slowed by quick defense. Voran's smile had vanished. He leaned forward in his chair, claws tight on the armrest. "Strange," he whispered. "They are not breaking. They are not even afraid. What lies beneath those uniforms that gives them such strength?" For the first time, the mighty commander felt a spark of doubt. And down below, Captain Wren watched the alien soldiers struggle to advance. His eyes were calm, his heart steady. He knew this was only the beginning, but already he had proven something important. The enemy had underestimated them, and soon they would learn what truly lived beneath the uniform. The battlefield had turned into a storm of fire and smoke. Blasts from Draxan weapons struck the walls of the outpost again and again, shaking stone and steel. The air was filled with the echo of explosions, the smell of burning dust, and the cries of soldiers shouting orders to each other. Inside the outpost, Captain Rin moved calmly through the chaos. He did not stay in one place but walked along the defensive line, speaking to his soldiers, checking positions, and keeping morale strong. His gray uniform was stained with dirt, but his presence gave his men courage. "Hold your fire until they move closer," Rin ordered one group. "Shift right, cover the weak point in the wall," he told another. The soldiers obeyed without hesitation. They trusted him. They knew he would not waste their lives. From the high ridge beyond the field, the Draxan commander on the ground raised his arm and signaled the next wave. More alien troops poured forward, their armor glowing under the pale sun. Their weapons sent streaks of burning energy toward the human defenses. Each step of their advance was heavy, shaking the ground as if the planet itself was afraid of them. On the command ship above, Voran watched the live feed with sharp eyes. He leaned close to the screen, expecting to see panic inside the human walls. Instead, he saw humans standing firm. They fired with discipline, moving from cover to cover. Some fell, but the others did not scatter. They simply closed ranks and kept fighting. "This is not possible," Voran muttered. "They should be breaking by now." An officer beside him said carefully, "Perhaps we underestimated their training." Voran's golden eyes flashed with anger. "No. They are weak. They only look strong because of their cloth symbols. Once we crush their walls, they will show their true nature." On the surface, Arik crouched behind a shattered barrier with Myra. His hands were trembling as he reloaded his rifle. The sound of alien blasts rang in his ears. For a moment, he thought he could not keep going. Myra touched his shoulder. "Do not fear, Arik. Remember what Captain Rin said. It is not the uniform. It is us." Arik looked at her and nodded. Her calm face gave him strength. He rose slightly, aimed carefully, and fired. His shot struck a Draxan soldier in the leg, and the alien crashed to the ground. Arik's fear began to fade. He had proven to himself that he could fight. The aliens pushed harder. Their armor gave them confidence, and their weapons were powerful, but the humans answered each strike with clever tactics. Rin ordered squads to fall back at the right moments, drawing the enemy into narrow passages where their numbers meant less. In those tight spaces, human fire cut through the aliens like blades. Voran watched with growing irritation. "They are too organized," he said. "This is not the behavior of a weak race." His second officer replied, "It seems their commander is skilled." Voran's claws scratched the armrest of his chair. "Skilled or not, they are still flesh under those uniforms. Break enough of them, and the rest will crumble." The aliens regrouped for another charge. Their formation was tight, their numbers great. Dust rose behind them as they advanced again, weapons flashing. Inside the outpost, the humans prepared. Rin gave a firm order. "Hold until they reach the breach. Then strike all at once. Do not let them through." The soldiers crouched behind cover, waiting. Their hearts raced, but their eyes were steady. The aliens reached the broken wall and rushed forward with roars. In that instant, Rin raised his hand and gave the signal. "Now." The humans unleashed a storm of fire. Rifles blazed, grenades flew, and hidden charges planted earlier exploded in sudden bursts. The Draxan front line staggered under the surprise attack. Smoke covered the breach, and several aliens fell, their armor cracked open. Arik's rifle grew hot in his hands as he fired again and again. Beside him, Myra moved smoothly, each shot precise. Together they covered their squad, not giving the aliens a chance to push forward. Even so, the Draxen kept coming. Their strength was great, and their armor shielded them from many hits. They forced their way into the breach, step by step. For every alien that fell, another took its place. Inside the command ship, Voron's eyes gleamed with triumph again. "Yes," he whispered. "Now we will see the truth. They cannot hold forever." But once more, his smile faded when he saw what happened next. The humans did not retreat. They did not scatter. Instead, they shifted their positions with perfect coordination, surrounding the breach from three sides. The aliens who had pushed inside suddenly found themselves trapped. Fire rained down from above, from the towers, and from hidden pits along the ground. The aliens roared in anger, but they could not break free. One by one they fell, and the breach became a grave for their pride. Voron slammed his fist against the chair. "Impossible. They are only men in cloth. How can they fight like this?" Back on the surface, Captain Rin stood tall as his soldiers cleared the breach. His uniform was torn at the shoulder, his face streaked with dirt, but his eyes were steady. He knew the battle was far from over, but he had seen something important. His people could stand against the Draxen. Arik looked around at his fellow soldiers. They were bruised, tired, and covered with dust, but none had run. He realized that what Rin said was true. The uniform did not protect them. What protected them was their courage, their unity, and their will to fight for each other. The clash was only beginning, but already the humans had shown something the Draxen did not expect. They were not weak. They were not fragile. They were strong in a way no armor could measure. Voron, watching from above, finally leaned back with narrowed eyes. His voice was low, heavy with thought. "There is something hidden beneath those uniforms. Something I do not yet understand." And that thought troubled him more than the loss of soldiers. The battlefield was quiet for a brief moment after the failed alien push. Smoke drifted across the gray ground, and the broken wall of the outpost glowed from the heat of blasts. Human soldiers stood in their positions, weapons ready, their eyes sharp even in exhaustion. They had held the breach, but all of them knew this was not the end. Captain Rin stood near the center wall. His uniform was torn at the sleeve, dust covering his face, but his posture was straight. He looked at the soldiers around him. Some were wounded, some were tired, yet all of them remained in formation. "You did well," Rin said in a steady voice. "But this fight is not finished. They will strike again, harder than before. Be ready." His words moved through the squad like a current. Arik felt the strength in his voice and forgot the ache in his arms. Myra gave a short nod, her face calm though her rifle was almost empty. Far above, Voron watched with narrowed eyes. His officers stood silent, waiting for his command. The commander's golden eyes glowed with cold fire. He had expected the humans to collapse, yet they stood firm. "They fight with strange resolve," Voron admitted. "But resolve will not save them from steel. Prepare the heavy walkers." The officer bowed. "At once, Commander." Minutes later, the ground outside the outpost shook again. From the alien crafts rolled out massive machines, tall as towers, with legs of metal and cannons mounted on their sides. The Draxen called them walkers, and they had crushed many strongholds in the past. Their steps alone made the earth quake. Inside the outpost, Arik's eyes widened when he saw them. "How can we stop that?" he whispered. Rin stood without flinching. "With patience and precision. Do not waste your fire. Wait for my command." The walkers advanced slowly, their heavy feet breaking stone. Behind them marched fresh lines of alien troops, shields raised, weapons glowing. The humans braced for the impact. Voran smiled again from his command ship. Now the humans will understand their weakness. No uniform, no spirit, can stop machines of war. But Rin had seen such machines in battle reports. He knew their strength, but he also knew their weakness. He raised his hand, signaling his squads. "Hold," he said. The walkers came closer, each step shaking dust from the walls. Their cannons charged, glowing with deadly light. "Hold," Ren repeated, his voice firm. The soldiers waited, their rifles ready, their hearts beating fast. The walkers reached the edge of firing range. Cannons lifted, ready to strike. "Now," Ren commanded. Hidden charges buried under the ground erupted in sudden blasts. Explosions shook the field, throwing dirt and flame into the air. One walker stumbled, one leg broken by the blast, and crashed to the ground with a loud roar of metal. The soldiers on the walls opened fire at once, focusing on the exposed joints of the other machines. Arik fired again and again, his shots striking sparks from the walker's knee. Myra's aim was sharp, hitting the same weak point until the armor cracked. With a final shot, the second walker fell sideways, crashing into the dust. The alien troops behind the walkers hesitated, shocked by the sudden loss. That pause was all the humans needed. Ren ordered his squads to press fire from all angles, forcing the enemy to retreat behind their own smoke. Voran rose from his chair, his claws gripping the armrest. His face was twisted with disbelief. They prepared for walkers? How did they know? How could these simple humans stand against such power? His officer spoke carefully. "Perhaps they studied us, Commander. Perhaps they are not as blind as we believed." Voran's eyes narrowed. "No. They are still weak. But their commander, he is dangerous." On the ground, the humans took a short breath of relief. The walkers lay broken in the dust, flames rising from their wreckage. But Ren did not relax. He knew this was only a small victory in a long battle. "Stay sharp," he told his soldiers. "They will strike again. They will try to break us with fear. Do not give it to them." Arik turned to Myra. "How does he stay so calm? Does nothing scare him?" Myra shook her head. "He feels fear, same as us. But he chooses not to let it rule him. That is what makes him strong." Her words stayed with Arik. He looked down at his own uniform, gray and dusty. It did not seem like armor, yet he began to see what it truly meant. It was a mark of unity, not just cloth. It reminded him that he was part of something greater. As the day turned toward evening, the Draxan made another push. This time they came in smaller groups, faster and harder, trying to slip through weak points. The humans met them at every corner. Flares lit the sky, and the sound of battle echoed across the barren land. Ren fought on the front line, his rifle steady, his voice loud with commands. At one point, an alien soldier nearly reached the inner wall, but Ren met him face to face. The alien towered over him, armor shining, weapon raised. Ren's uniform looked thin in comparison, but his movements were quick and sharp. He aimed at the joint of the alien's armor and fired point blank. The alien fell, defeated not by strength but by precision. Voran saw this moment on the feed. He leaned forward, stunned. That human captain, he is fearless. He stands before my soldiers as if he were equal. The officer at his side whispered, Perhaps he is more than equal, Commander. Voron's eyes darkened. No, I will not accept that. The battle dragged on into the night. The humans held their ground again and again, though their numbers were smaller and their weapons simpler. Each soldier fought not for himself but for the one beside him. Their uniforms were torn, their bodies weary, but their spirit did not bend. When dawn finally touched the horizon, the field outside the outpost was littered with broken machines and fallen soldiers. The Draxon had not taken the walls. Inside his command ship, Voron stood in silence. For the first time in many years, he had faced resistance that did not crumble. He whispered to himself, "What are these humans? What lies beneath those plain uniforms that gives them such strength?" And though he spoke quietly, the question burned in his mind like fire. The sun rose weakly over the barren planet. Its pale light fell across the battlefield, revealing the scars of the night's struggle. Smoke curled from broken alien machines, and the ground was torn by craters. Inside the outpost, human soldiers stood at their posts, weary but unbroken. Their uniforms were torn, their faces streaked with dust, yet their eyes held firm resolve. Captain Rin walked along the wall, checking on his men. He stopped where Arik and Myra were stationed. Arik leaned against the stone, breathing heavily, his rifle still clutched in his hands. Myra was already reloading, her face calm as always. "You fought well," Rin said to them. "Both of you. But this fight is not finished. The enemy will return, and we must be ready." Arik nodded, though his shoulders sagged with exhaustion. "Captain, how can we keep holding? They have more soldiers, more weapons. We are only human." Rin asked, finishing his thought. His eyes were sharp but steady. "Do not think that way. What we carry inside is greater than any weapon they bring. Remember that." Arik fell silent, the words sinking into him. Myra gave the captain a short nod, her eyes showing respect. High above, in the orbiting command ship, Voron studied the battle reports. His officers stood silently, afraid of his growing anger. He read the losses: 2 heavy walkers destroyed, many troops fallen, and not a single breach gained. His claws tapped against the table as he thought. "These humans are stubborn," he said. "They are fewer, weaker, yet they fight as if they cannot break. Why?" One officer dared to speak. "Perhaps it is their unity, Commander. They fight as one. It is something our scanners cannot measure." Voron's eyes narrowed. Unity is nothing against steel. Yet still they resist. He paused, his mind restless. "Very well. If they will not fall to force, then we will break their spirit. Target their supplies. Burn their food, their water, their hope. Let us see if their uniforms give them strength when they starve." Orders were sent. On the ground, alien raiding parties moved around the outpost, attacking supply caches and cutting lines of communication. Explosions lit the distance as storage depots were destroyed. Inside the outpost, soldiers watched the distant fire with heavy hearts. Arik clenched his fists. "They are trying to starve us." Myra nodded grimly. "They think we will give up." Captain Rin gathered his squad in the courtyard. His voice carried across the weary soldiers. "They believe our strength comes from food and comfort. They believe our uniforms are nothing but cloth. But hear me now. What they cannot burn is our spirit. What they cannot starve is our will." The men and women straightened, their tired faces hardening with determination. Even with smoke rising in the distance, they felt the fire of unity inside them. Days passed. The aliens tightened their circle around the outpost. Supplies grew thin, but the soldiers shared what little they had. No one ate alone. No one was left behind. Arik gave part of his ration to a wounded soldier, though his own stomach ached. Myra carried water to the younger recruits before drinking herself. Small acts spread like sparks, and those sparks became a flame of endurance. From the command ship, Voran watched the humans through long-range scans. He saw them growing weaker in body but not in spirit. Instead of breaking apart, they grew closer. His frown deepened. "This is not how it should be," he muttered. "They should be fighting each other by now. Fear and hunger should have torn them apart." His officer lowered his head. "But they have not, Commander. They endure. It seems the cloth they wear means more than we thought." Voran slammed his fist against the console. "No. It is not the cloth. Something else lies beneath. Something I cannot see." On the ground, Rin called his officers together. "They are trying to drain us," he said. "But we will not wait for them to strike again. We will act." Myra looked at him with curiosity. "What do you mean, Captain?" "We will hit their supply lines," Rin said. "If they can bleed us, we can bleed them. They think we are too weak to fight outside these walls. We will prove them wrong." That night, under the cover of shadows, small squads of humans slipped out of the outpost. Arik was among them, his heart pounding. He had never gone beyond the walls during battle, but he trusted Rin. They moved silently across the barren land, their gray uniforms blending with the dust. Guided by scouts, they found an alien supply convoy guarded by armored troops. Rin gave the signal, and the humans attacked. Grenades exploded, rifles cracked, and shouts filled the night. The Draxan were caught by surprise. They had expected humans to hide behind walls, not to strike boldly in open ground. In minutes, the convoy burned, flames lighting the sky. Arik fired at an alien who tried to flee, his shot striking true. For the first time, he felt not just fear but pride. He was part of something greater, and that strength flowed through him. When the squad returned to the outpost, cheers rose among the weary soldiers. The fire in their hearts burned brighter. They had struck the enemy, and they had shown they were not helpless. From orbit, Voran received the report of the destroyed convoy. His face darkened with rage. "They dare to strike us? They dare to leave their walls." He stood, his cloak sweeping behind him. "Very well. If they will not break, then I will go myself. I will tear the strength from them with my own hands." His officers bowed, though unease filled their faces. They had never seen their commander so unsettled. On the ground, Captain Rin stood at the wall, looking out at the alien lights on the horizon. He knew the battle was far from over. The enemy had greater numbers, greater machines. But he also knew something else. His soldiers had discovered their hidden strength. Not in armor, not in weapons, but in spirit. They wore plain uniforms, yet beneath them lived courage no enemy could measure. The outpost was tired, hungry, and surrounded. But it was not broken. And as long as one soldier stood, it never would be. The morning sky was a pale gray, and the air felt tense as if the planet itself held its breath. Captain Rin stood on the outpost wall, scanning the horizon. The Draxan forces were moving in numbers greater than before. Their ships hovered low, casting long shadows over the barren ground, while armored troops and mechanical walkers advanced steadily. Dust swirled in their wake. Rin turned to his soldiers, many of whom were still bruised from the previous attacks. Their uniforms were torn and faded, but their faces were firm. They looked at him with a mix of fear and determination. "Today," Rin said, his voice strong and clear, "we fight not just to defend these walls, but to show them what it means to face humans. They think we are weak. They think our uniforms hide nothing. But underneath, we carry courage, unity, and the will to protect each other. Remember that." The soldiers straightened, gripping their rifles. Arik tightened the straps on his armor, feeling the determination flow into his arms. Myra's eyes met his, and she nodded. They were ready. Voran watched from above, his golden eyes sharp and calculating. The humans had survived every attack, destroyed walkers, and even struck at his supply lines. It was frustrating. He had thought they were fragile, but their resistance was growing stronger. "They are clever," Voran said quietly. "Too clever. But steel and fire will finish them. Prepare the full strike." Below, the alien troops began to spread across the field. Massive walkers stomped forward, cannon barrels glowing with deadly light. Infantry followed, shields raised, advancing in perfect formation. The ground trembled beneath their steps, and the humans could feel the power of the Draxan army. Ren raised his hand. "Hold your positions," he ordered. "Wait until they reach the trap lines." The soldiers obeyed, moving into hidden positions they had prepared over days. Mines lay under loose dirt, barricades were set in narrow passes, and sniper teams were in high towers. Every soldier had a role, and every role mattered. The first wave of Draxan troops charged. Their glowing weapons fired, tearing into the ground and walls. Sparks flew as shots struck the barriers, and smoke filled the air. The humans stayed steady, firing with precision. Every shot counted. Arik fired again and again, striking a soldier who tried to climb the outer wall. Myra covered him, taking out two more approaching enemies. Together, they moved in rhythm, a single unit rather than two separate soldiers. Voran's eyes narrowed. "They are coordinated," he said. "They should be panicking, but they fight as one. Send in the walkers to crush them completely." The walkers stepped forward, enormous and terrifying. Each machine's feet sank into the dirt, and their cannons glowed brighter. The humans watched, but they did not run. Ren signaled his squads, and the hidden mines exploded. One walker stumbled and crashed into a crater. The other walkers were slowed by barriers and targeted fire. Voran clenched his claws. "Impossible. How can flesh resist steel?" The humans struck again. Soldiers fired from high positions, grenades exploded, and trenches held the advancing infantry. They were outnumbered, but their unity and strategy allowed them to push back the powerful enemy. Ren moved along the wall, checking on each squad. "Keep calm. Cover each other. Do not waste your shots. Fight together." Arik looked around, amazed. Humans around him moved as one body, firing, reloading, and supporting each other. He understood now what the captain meant. Strength was not only in weapons or armor. It was in the spirit, in the connection they shared under the simple gray uniforms. The Draxan pressed harder, furious at the resistance. They were confident that no human army could hold. Yet for every inch they gained, they lost more soldiers. Their numbers alone could not break the coordinated human defense. Ren raised his hand and gave a new command. "Flank from the west. Use the traps. Force them into the narrow path." The squads moved quickly, firing and retreating, leading the alien troops into traps. Mines exploded, cutting off reinforcements. Walkers stumbled, infantry was trapped in tight spaces, and the humans took advantage at every turn. Voron's face grew dark with anger. His golden eyes glowed with disbelief. They are not just fighting, they are winning small battles. Their uniforms hide nothing, yet their will is unbreakable. What is this power? Inside the outpost, the humans pressed their advantage. They had no massive ships or advanced weapons, but they had ingenuity, courage, and teamwork. Each soldier knew their role and trusted the one beside them. Every attack was calculated, every defense was coordinated. Arik fired at an approaching walker, hitting a weak joint and watching it stumble. Myra used a small explosive to topple another machine. Side by side, they were unstoppable together. The Draxan tried again, sending more troops from the rear. They believed they could encircle the humans, but the soldiers anticipated the move. Rin had set ambushes, and the humans struck before the aliens could reach them. Hours passed in relentless combat. The sun moved across the sky, casting long shadows over the battlefield. Dust, smoke, and sparks filled the air, but the humans did not falter. They fought tirelessly, never yielding, never retreating beyond the small strategic positions they had chosen. Voron's voice was low and tense. I have never faced such resistance. They are only humans, but they fight with the heart of 1,000 armies. They are not fragile. They are something else. By the evening, the Draxan were forced to retreat temporarily. Many walkers were destroyed, and their infantry was diminished. The humans stood tall despite wounds and fatigue. Rin looked at his soldiers. We have held them today, but this is not the end. Tomorrow, they will strike again. But remember this, strength does not come from what they think they see. It comes from what lies beneath. Courage, unity, and the will to protect each other, this is what makes us human, and no one can take that from us. Arik looked around at his squad. They were battered but smiling, proud to have survived and won small victories. He touched his uniform and realized it was more than cloth. It was a symbol of their shared strength, their unity, and the hidden power within. Voron returned to his command seat, frowning at the reports of human resistance. He had underestimated them, and now he had learned a lesson he could not ignore. Humans were not weak. They were resilient, clever, and capable of things no Draxan machine could measure. And deep inside, the Draxan commander understood that this fight would not be easy, and the humans' true strength had only begun to reveal itself. The battlefield was quiet again, but the silence was heavy with tension. The sun had set, leaving the sky a deep orange and purple. Smoke still rose from broken machines and scorched earth. Human soldiers moved among the debris, checking their positions, tending to the wounded, and keeping their lines ready for another attack. They were tired, hungry, and bruised, but they stood tall. Captain Rin walked through the ranks of his soldiers. His uniform was torn and covered in dust, yet his eyes were bright with determination. He had seen the Draxan attack again and again, yet every time the humans had found a way to fight back. He knew the final battle was near, but he also knew that his people had discovered something far greater than weapons or armor. They will come again, Rin said to his squad. And we will be ready. Remember, what makes us strong is not our uniforms. It is the courage inside us. It is the unity we share. They cannot see it, but it is real, and it will carry us through. Arik looked at the captain and nodded. He felt the truth in his words. Every battle had taught him that strength came from more than weapons. It came from trust, from heart, and from the will to protect those beside him. Myra stood beside him, her rifle ready. "I understand now," she said. "It is not the uniform that protects us. It is what lies beneath it. Our spirit, our unity, our determination." The Draxan fleet descended as the first stars appeared in the sky. Voran himself led the attack, moving his command ship into orbit directly above the outpost. Massive walkers and armored troops poured onto the field, their numbers greater than ever. The ground shook under the weight of their advance. Voran's golden eyes scanned the battlefield. He had underestimated the humans before, and each failure had cost him soldiers and machines. Yet he still believed that with enough force, they would bend. He would not allow them to stand against him. On the ground, Captain Rin signaled his soldiers. "Hold your positions. Watch each other's backs. Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for our future." The Draxan advanced in perfect formation, expecting the humans to break under pressure. Their cannons glowed, their weapons flashed, and their roars echoed across the battlefield. Yet the humans did not falter. They stood their ground, rifles steady, eyes focused. Arik fired his rifle with precise aim, striking an advancing alien soldier. Myra flanked him, using a grenade to block another path. Together, they moved as one, anticipating each enemy step, covering each other, protecting the lines. Voran watched through the feed. For the first time, his face betrayed doubt. "How do they hold?" he whispered. "They are human. They are fragile. Yet they strike with more skill than our own troops. What lies beneath those uniforms?" The battle raged through the night. Human soldiers moved with strategy and care. They used the terrain, traps, and coordination to offset the aliens' superior numbers and technology. Every move was precise, every shot calculated. Captain Rin led from the front. He did not hide behind walls or wait for others to act. He directed the defense with clarity and courage. Every soldier who saw him knew that their strength came not from the uniform but from the resolve that lived inside. Arik felt the fire of determination burn through him. He had fired, fought, and survived, but now he realized that courage was more important than any weapon. Myra beside him smiled briefly, sharing his feeling of power that came not from force but from unity. Voran's frustration grew. Every wave he sent, every machine he unleashed, fell to careful human tactics. Walkers were toppled, infantry trapped, and supply lines destroyed. His soldiers began to falter under the human resistance. "This cannot be," Voran growled. "They are only humans. They should be easy to crush. Yet every attack fails. They endure where they should break. What is this power?" As the night deepened, Captain Rin ordered a final counterattack. Small squads left the safety of the walls, striking at weak points in the enemy's formation. Mines exploded under armored legs, rifles found gaps in shields, and the humans moved as one body, striking fear into the Draxan forces. Voran watched helplessly as his troops retreated, losing ground they had thought secure. He clenched his claws and took a deep breath. He had seen enough. He moved his command ship closer, descending to the field, wanting to confront this force himself. On the battlefield, the humans did not cheer. They had won ground, but the fight was not over. Still, there was a quiet satisfaction in their movements. They knew they had proven something important. The enemy had underestimated them, and now that mistake would shape the rest of the battle. Rin gathered his soldiers in the courtyard of the outpost. "Look at what you have done," he said. You have fought, endured, and held your ground against an enemy that thought you were weak. That is strength. That is what lies beneath our uniforms. Remember this moment, for it will carry you through every challenge we face. Arik felt the truth in Rin's words. He looked at Myra and the other soldiers around him, realizing that each of them carried courage, skill, and heart that no machine or weapon could destroy. He felt proud, strong, and unbreakable. High above, Voran landed near the edge of the battlefield. He stepped onto the ground, towering over the humans, expecting fear and submission. Yet what he saw was not terror in their eyes. He saw determination, courage, and unity. Their plain uniforms did not hide weakness, they revealed it was unnecessary. Voran took a slow step forward. His golden eyes met Captain Rin's steady gaze. For the first time, he spoke not with commands or orders, but with quiet respect. I underestimated you, he said. I thought your uniforms were only cloth. I thought your strength was small. Yet I see now that beneath them lies something I cannot match. You are not fragile. You are not weak. You are extraordinary. Rin's eyes were steady. He said nothing at first. Then he spoke clearly, his voice carrying to every soldier around. A uniform is only cloth. What makes a human strong is what is inside. Courage. Unity. Willpower. The determination to protect those we care about. That is what no one can take from us. Voran lowered his head. He had come to conquer, to prove superiority, but instead he had witnessed something greater. Humanity had shown what it meant to endure against impossible odds. What lived beneath the uniform was more powerful than any weapon, any machine, any plan. For the first time, the Draxan commander felt awe. He realized that no matter how advanced his technology or how many soldiers he commanded, he could never measure the strength of the human spirit. The battlefield grew quiet. The Draxan retreated to their ships, and the humans stood tall. They had survived the attack, defended their home, and revealed the hidden power within themselves. Arik looked at the plain uniform on his chest and smiled. It was simple, but it had carried him through fire and fear. It did not make him strong. He was strong because of what lived inside. Myra and the others gathered near him, tired but proud. Captain Rin stood in the center, his eyes scanning the horizon. The enemy had not conquered them. Humanity had endured, and in that endurance, they had proven what no uniform could ever hide. And high above, Voran understood the lesson. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not weak. What lived beneath the uniform was a force that no one in the galaxy could ever underestimate. The stars shone quietly, and for the first time in many battles, the universe seemed to pause, acknowledging the strength that lay within the smallest, simplest creatures of all.